Hey, this is Bryce from Shelf Centered. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, you never know, it could happen. It's Tuesday News Day, and it's time for Top Shelf News for the week. This is the latest news in fantasy, science fiction, sometimes horror as they relate mostly to books and also media. Today's kind of a heavier media news day, so let's jump right into it. First things first, this is Patrick Leo's introduced this to me. I did not even realize, but Orbit, the publisher Orbit, one of the big, huge, whatever it is now because they keep eating each other. 5, I don't know, 6, 4, 3, 2, I don't know. Anyway, they have taken on, as far as Patrick could tell, as far as I've ever heard of, the first traditionally published litRPG series. Now, it is a traditional author, and it's an author that they've already published books for, so it's David Dalglish. The first series is Level Unknown. Again, I don't know much about it. I just know litRPG, and I think that's awesome. I think independent publishing has had some influence there. That's got to have, and I just love it. That makes me so happy that traditional publishers are finally like, hey, let's get beyond the dark ages, because they tend to just be a little slow. If anyone understands this, it's a lawyer whose complete profession, the whole profession, is at least 50 years behind everyone else, at least typically. So I can understand, absolutely, but I just think that's so cool. It just seems like independent publishing is having it's having its day. Not only that, but it's also pushing traditional to catch up, which is really cool. All right, then this was mentioned by a good friend of mine, and so I wanted to mention it here because I looked into it just slightly. But Stormless, this is book 1 in the Stormless series by Nick Stidle, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that right, Stidle. Looks cool. I really like the cover. That's, and check out reviews in the description below. The Expendable Mudge is my friend, and I absolutely love him to death, and definitely check out those reviews below, but he was recommending them, and so of course I will take those recommendations and absolutely do a plug for the Expendable Mudge blog. It's absolutely awesome. I just love him to death. So anyway, check it out. Also, one of the best blog names like ever, I think, beyond Shelf-Centered, which I'm pretty proud of, okay? Then in other news, we've got a new release for another Wild Cards book. Now they're just being presented by George R.R. Martin, which is a good thing, let's be honest, because it means he's not doing the editing. Usually it's edited by George R.R. Martin, but now they're just presented by, so they can still use the George R.R. Martin name. The new one is Sleep or Straddle, so apparently that's a reference to an earlier one. I really need to read these books already. I own a number of them, and as usual, have not gotten to them. George R.R. Martin obviously keeps pushing them, but it is good to kind of see, hey, they're just presented by him. He's not really involved in it, other than that really bankable name, which is getting, I think, less and less so. And that kind of gets to my next topic. A little bit, I don't know, maybe a rant. We'll see where this goes. I'm kind of coming to this fresh, but just wanted to address, because it's been now a couple weeks, but George R.R. Martin had this long blog post, and I think what's been focused on is kind of just this little tiny part of the blog post. The rest of it is pretty disheartening, but also at the same time, he's really going to like, what effect, what legacy have I had? Yes, I'm rich and famous and all these things, but have I left a legacy? Am I going to be forgotten like the list that I just made? And who knows who I forgot off the list who have recently passed away, of legends of what he considers his kind of generation of science fiction and fantasy authors, and I can see that absolutely. I mean, he's getting up there in years, and but the thing that's been focused on really is his talk about toxic fans. It's really overall a really sad blog post. It's depressing. He's talking about the news of the last year and his own just professional and private matters. That just he didn't have a great 2023. It doesn't sound like a lot of people really did, to be honest. But then this talk about toxic fans is kind of what's blown up a little bit more. And again, it's just really like a paragraph or two in the blog post, and is not a blog. Kind of want to address that. But again, I think in the context, the full context of everything, I've given George R.R. Martin a hard time in the past. I'll be the first to admit it. But I kind of went to just defending him a little bit here because I do feel like maybe this is just from my own experience recently, but recently I've gotten a slew of just negative comments on the channel. And as Bookborn, if you check out her video, it's just a really good video of like, you know, the kind of best, most positive comments often get more like featured when you're actually looking at a video. But as a creator, you just get thrown all of the comments. And so it's a healthy amount of negativity. And I've even mentioned them lately on X and been posting about just kind of some funny things that I found. And I try to just be lighthearted about it because but you can get depressed about it. It's hard. The internet has made it so easy to be negative, to think that everything you're doing is wrong just because of a couple negative and miserable people. So I can see George R.R. Martin feeling that way and thinking that way and going, because he does. He gets a lot of heat, and I get it. Some of it is warranted. So you have to, I'm just trying to take it as neutrally as I can. Look, some of it's warranted. Like, it's been a healthy amount of time since the last book came out. Like, it's fair enough to say maybe you're not focusing enough. I don't know, maybe. You know, you were at one time able to produce books pretty quickly, and now we've gotten literally decades-ish in between. So you could see why it's like, hey, maybe buckle down and finish, and maybe then that can be your legacy instead of, hey, he never finished. So I can see, but some of this is the truth hurts, right? The truth hurts, and not everybody likes to face it, not these days especially. So I can again see that, but at the same time, I don't, and I could also say that fandom also, like those negative comments that I've gotten recently, and this is just in the smallest regard. I know I haven't finished one of the most popular series. I haven't failed to finish one of the most popular series of all time of fantasy, and then had to hear about that constantly. So I get that, but even just in my little sphere, it's still a very small percentage of all the rest of the comments that I get. And again, not trying to compare. I'm sure he has a larger percentage of negative comments, of haters. But also you can kind of find on the internet what you want to find. I heard someone describing, fans have kind of always been this way. We like to be critical of the stuff we love. So it is kind of, in a way, a nice thing that people wouldn't be critical of things that they didn't love. It's harder to take this way. But I do feel like the internet does make it so people are a little more anonymous and can be a little bigger of jerks and miserable about it. So I do get his, like, where he's coming from, where George is coming from, because he's got to get it more than most. He's up there with a lot of them that are getting it heavily. So I get that, and he's hearing the toxic things. But I also struggle because it's so easy to throw out, oh, the fans are just toxic. And it's like, well, is there some truth to it? Right? Like when Star Wars movies have been coming out, right? Those the newest trilogy of movies, it was rough, and there were some bad things to it, and people were like, oh, the fans are just toxic. And it's like, can you at least acknowledge where it's gone wrong? There was just a lot of that, a lot of bad faith takes on everything. And that's all we do anymore, I feel like, too, on the internet, is just bad faith, anyone's argument, and straw man, or some kind of logical fallacy that doesn't make any sense, that are easy to spot out and easy to point out the errors in the reasoning. But anyway, I am trying to give George R.R. Martin the benefit of the doubt, but look, guilty take the truth to be hard, right? Maybe he's a little guilty there too, and just should finish the book. I don't know. But at the same time, I get it, and I understand, like, it's so easy to focus on those negatives, and I'm sure he gets way more than most. So anyway, it's my rambling diatribe about nothing. So didn't get to any point. I feel for him. I think he's right, and I think he's wrong. So there you go. All right, then getting into the media. First things first, I didn't know this, maybe you did already, but I was just looking up kind of just recent news, and I found out there's apparently going to be a Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming out, directed by Jon Favreau, and coming out in 2026, and then along with, apparently maybe, who knows? 26 is a long way away to be actually predicting more than that, along with a couple other Star Wars movies. They seemed way more tentative than like the Lando one I've already kind of mentioned, and some other ones. I didn't want to get into them unless they're just very little details on those. But the biggest one seemed like Mandalorian, which makes the most sense. It's been very, very popular. It's been fun. I feel like I've given it a break on Star Wars, and I'm kind of excited to get back into them. I never even finished season 3, so I need to do that. Then we've got Starter Villain by John Scalzi is getting an adaptation. I think that's so cool, and hopefully the start of many adaptations for John Scalzi. I really enjoy his books. They're really punchy, they're fun, they're not too intellectual, they're not super hard sci-fi, but they're fun sci-fi, and they're usually with a good sense of humor behind it, and they have a great plot and just get you moving. So I think that's exciting news to see at least just one Scalzi book, and hopefully we'll see some more. I haven't read Starter Villain, but it's definitely on my list. All right, then Predator is getting another movie. Does it need another movie? I don't know. I'm far behind now on this. I love my Arnold Schwarzenegger days, and so I need to catch up. I heard Prey was good, for instance, and apparently new Predator is going to be called Badlands and be directed by the director or the showrunner or something. Yeah, the director of Prey, Dan Trachtenberg, who's also the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is absolutely a great movie. So I'm kind of excited for that. I need to clearly catch up, but I think we have some time here. And Deadpool 3 has got a trailer. I mean, yeah, we saw it. Everybody saw it. I know, but I'll be honest, it is kind of exciting. Here's the thing. I don't know if I love how it's appearing to be brought into the MCU. Like, I've liked Loki. I've enjoyed it, but I don't know. I just feel like this is it's just such a way to pull things in that I'm just not loving. I'm not. It just seems so contrived and just easy to be like, okay, now we just can do everything and pull in anything we ever want, and all we have to do is just say, it's the Time Guys or whatever they're called. It's been a while, so not sure if I love that way, but I do love Deadpool and Wolverine and bringing Hugh Jackman back and just the fun that they have with it. I don't know. I guess I'm nervous about bringing Deadpool into the MCU because it's like it's been working out very well on its own. Why ruin it? Why mess with it? Or maybe this lets us go, look, we're going to go beyond Deadpool and just let him be a character in other things. And maybe utilizing him in kind of a more, I don't know, maybe that might be good going forward if he can kind of be more of a side character in other ones. I don't know. Who knows? It's gone really well. I get concerned when you start changing things up. And Marvel just, again, or Disney in general, is just kind of beating the dead horses that are their major franchises, like Star Wars, as mentioned. Marvel, of course, just anything they have, they will just be like, let's release all of the shows. And I'm like, you're eventually going to have diminishing returns, right? It just feels like it's already happening. Maybe oversaturating isn't a good idea, and maybe, the reason that the first Star Wars movie, the J.J. Abrams one that I'm failing to remember, it did so well in the box office was because we had such a break from Star Wars, and there's no need to go crazy right now. I don't know. That just to continue. It's just been continuous, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. In fact, it's getting worse. And I do mean worse, not like better or more is worse, I think, in this regard. All right, then we had the Fantastic Four cast revealed. I think this is pretty cool. I think these are pretty good cast choices. First of all, Pedro Pascal should probably be in everything. I really like him as Reed Richards. Apparently, John Krasinski that was his one thing, the one Doctor Strange movie, and then he's out. And I feel like I don't know. I'm a little disappointed because that was kind of cool, but I do love Pedro Pascal, so I don't hate this turn of events either. Pretty good. Vanessa Kirby, she's been good in the, Mission Impossible movies, right? So anyway, we'll see how she does in Marvel. And then Eben Moss Bachrach, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but as the Thing, I don't know anything. I haven't watched, The Bear. So anyway, I don't know anything about him. And then Joseph Quinn, who, I mean, again, Stranger Things season 4, his part in it, I'm so happy to see him in more things and hopefully get a pretty stock role in some stuff. So that's pretty cool. Very excited for that. All right, then finally, X-Men 97. I had to mention it. I am actually very excited for it. This was the thing that I was super excited to come home and watch right after school. As soon as I got off school, I knew I was gonna hit, and I had to kind of push it and get home fast because I rode the bus, and you had to kind of walk home fast or run even a little bit to get there in time to be able to watch the X-Men the animated series. And it has been one of my favorites. I've started watching it with the kids. It is still so good, still holds up. Absolutely have so much fun with it. What's cool even is that the creators, the showrunners, are on X and are very, very approachable. Like maybe less so now because this is going to get popular or whatever. I've literally interacted with them, had them retweet stuff because it was retweet at the time instead of repost on X, and they just love their show and they love anyone that talks about it. And that's all I was doing was talking about how, hey, I'm watching this and I love my life because it is great to rewatch that. That was a time in my life that I like lived for that. This show and Spider-Man were like my jam. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was like a little earlier than that I absolutely loved too, but and then I could keep going. But I'm liking it so far. There's only a trailer as far as I can tell. Looks like they're kind of continuing things from literally the last episode, at least that's what the trailer's saying. I have some concerns over Xavier's will. First of all, as a lawyer, I think someone may need to contest it. Seems concerning. So we'll see how that goes. But I did like some of the commentary I saw was like, oh, this is a disappointment that they're sexualizing the characters a little bit less. I always, even just as a kid, was kind of like, isn't this a little extreme for kids, because it was me and my friends were obsessed with I collected with my friends the Marvel cards, and we trade cards and everything. I still have somewhat of a collection. I forgot that I actually literally had them here. So, old school Marvel cards that are still worth nothing. Even this, there we go. And to even that degree, which was actually, I was in high school, but a friend gave me a ton of his, so I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. So I was a little obsessed. I still, haven't fully completed those decks, but I think they're so much fun. I absolutely I would pore over the backs of those cards. I, for some reason, didn't get into the comics until later when I was a teenager, and absolutely loved comics from there, but have not really nearly read enough. I'm far behind in that. But anyway, I say all that to say, I am so excited for this. It does feel like some nostalgia is definitely kicking in there. There's a lot of that going around these days. But it was an absolute blast of a series, and it looks like it's the same people running it. So I think we're in good hands. I'm very excited for that. So anyway, that's been the news to me. Anything I missed, let me know in the comments, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.